just from very early on, it was just like, okay, I know that the media industry is very competitive and I have it 10 times as hard because I'm a woman of color and because I am not aggressive, but I just know what I want.
Grecia, tell us about yourself. Little spill, big spill, whatever you want to say.
Cool. All right. I'll try my best elevator pitch. My name is Grecia Lopez. I am a professional bilingual digital journalist, host, entertainment guru, whatever you guys want to call it. It's really broad. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. When I was about 10 or 11, my parents moved to the suburbs of Los Angeles County, which is Palmdale. And right away, right off the bat, it was just kind of like, you were the token right away in Palmdale. I know, Tanina, you can probably understand what I mean by that. It's like back in 2006, 2005, the late to 2010s, it was like very suburban white community of Palmdale, California. Now it's a little bit more, diverse. But right off the bat, growing up in Palmdale was just different because there was a lot of white people around in like middle school and high school. And I just felt different, just growing up in that sense of community. And then when you would go visit your family, which my family is like Compton, Linwood, Downey, that side of LA, it's like, whoa, this is very, very different. And so it was kind of like, I didn't really fit in Palmdale, but then when I would go visit my family in Compton, then I didn't really feel like I fit in there. And it was like, it's like not Hannah Montana, best of both worlds, but it was kind of like, all right, it's kind of like, you had to like code switch with like, verbal and like how you would say and how you would speak and how you would dress. Like it was just completely different, which growing up, I didn't really understand it. Now looking back, it's like, yo, that like, how did I not know that was actually happening? Now I'm like, wow, now I can like internalize and be like, yeah, that was, we did that basically. Yeah, because now my siblings, my youngest sibling is a senior in high school in Palmdale. It's just so different. Like there's way more people of color in Palmdale. Like she has her clique and she's not the only person of color in her, in her group of photo friends. Which is really, really great. And so in Palmdale in high school, I was very active in high school. I was on the dance team. I was an ASB. I was class president. I did the morning announcements. And so my guidance counselor in high school was like, you should go into journalism. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, communications. I could do that. Like, yeah, sure. Let's go. And so then I didn't want to go too far from home, but I didn't want to be so close. So I chose Cal State Northridge, which is just like an hour and a half drive from Palmdale. And I fell in love with the campus. There's a great community. And I did their journalism program for 5 years. And within my academic career, I did 6 internships with NBC Universal. I was like, all right. I was like, I want to be a reporter. So I first sought out to be a general assignment news reporter. I wanted to be on the corner saying, reporting live from Avenue West. There's been a homicide, as you can see right behind me. That's what I wanted to do. And so what I tell students that want to be journalists, it's like, it's great that you have your goal, but internships are where you're actually going to realize if it's what you really want to do. Because there's what you learn in college is not how it is in the real world. And so it's like, all right, you have a profession that you have in mind, great, pursue it 100%, but also get internships, get like an entry-level position at the job that you think that you want, because then you'll actually really be like, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah. And so I had got my first internship with Telemundo 52 in LA, Telemundo 52, and that's when I was like, yo, this is great. Like, I definitely want to be in the media, definitely want to be a voice for the voiceless in the community, being bilingual, being first generation Mexican American. I want to use my bilingualism to really empower my community. And so then during my internship, I was like, never mind, never mind, because it's very hardcore. It's very desensitizing, as I was like a 20-year-old intern looking at B-roll footage from like, head-on collisions, having to scroll through the B-roll if there's limbs, if there's you know, like blood, like very, very graphic stuff that it was just kind of like, I would go home and kind of be like, yo, I am not okay. And it kind of made me think to like people that work in the medical field, like how can they see that in the flesh and be okay, you know?
Or even like police officers and like.
Yeah. That's a whole different conversation, because then me thinking that then made me Google like how like the rates and like the percentage of like how firefighters or like police people or doctors and then there's like a big, I forgot the number, but there's a big percentage of people who end up like not okay, and then they have to do therapy themselves, which is great. You know, it's the first thing is always admitting that you need help, and so that's great that there is a percentage of, you know, our first responders that acknowledge that they are not okay seeing this every day. So within my internships then I was like, okay, maybe not a news reporter, but I definitely want to stay in media. So I then ended up interning at ENews back when ENews was a show, because ENews does not exist anymore, and it's crazy.
It doesn't? Wait, wasn't it with Ryan Seacrest or something? Or
I know. ENews, the linear show, the 7 o'clock, hey, this is ENews, does not exist anymore. It is canceled.
After COVID, or that's just, it's been
so the thing about media that people it's hard to explain. So when you have a show on TV, that is a linear show. So it's like Good Morning America, the Today Show, ENews. Those are linear shows, so they're broadcasted on national television. So they're linear. Now, since we're going in the digital era of everything, everybody is watching TV on their phones or their apps, or we get our news from Twitter or Instagram or quick apps. So it's like nobody says, hey, it's 6 o'clock, let me sit down and watch the news. No, everybody has the news right on the palm of their hand. So in a way, it affects linear shows because the ratings go down, nobody's tuning in. So then it's like, all right, we have to cut it. This isn't making money anymore. Ad sales, you know, it's like a whole business behind just giving you guys the entertainment day. So ENews doesn't exist anymore, which is super, super crazy. They still have other shows like Daily Pop or Nightly Pop, but like the iconic ENews with Ryan Seacrest is done.
I feel like you just gave us like this like inside scoop, even though it's something that's probably known, but I did not realize.
Exactly, because nobody watches TV.
Yeah, no one has cable.
Yeah, nobody pays.
You would think though they would just like adapt to the times and like maybe transfer that to YouTube or something. I don't know, like where people are actually watching.
I mean, they still have digital shows like their Snapchat show, The Rundown with Aaron Lamb on Snapchat, like that show's still doing really well. So they're definitely still like creating digital content, but as far as like TV, like no. So it's great that I can say in my career I started with ENews, the iconic show. And so then I was interning at E, and again I was the only Latina on the team. I was one of the very few people of color. When I mean very few, it was a newsroom of like maybe like 40 to 50 people, and I can count how many people of color on one hand. Wow. Insane, right? And so just from very early on, it was just like, okay, I know that the media industry is very competitive, and I have it 10 times as hard because I'm a woman of color and because I am not aggressive, but I just know what I want. So, and when you're a female person of color in a meeting and you voice your opinion, and if you come off too strong, then you're like, oh, you're aggressive. But if the Chads of the world comes off too strong, oh, he's passionate.
Yeah. Or he's brilliant. Wow.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. You know? So it's like little things like that I was just like, that I would catch myself getting mad because they would label me like a certain way, and then it was like, okay, if they get a reaction, that's what they want, right? So like I had to like train, and this is a part of being like first generation. You have to like kind of train yourself to understand how to maneuver and how to act in corporate and, you know, in the corporate world. And so with my start with ENews, I then stayed in entertainment production, and I've been an entertainment journalist for the last 4.5 years. And my internship and a mentor led me to Miami. We both sent a show to Miami, thankfully within the same company, which was great. And so I relocated to Miami, and it was very, very hard because being a first generation, you're kind of like the first one in your family to really, really get into corporate America and contract and relocation assistance, and how much is a fair amount, or are they lowballing you? You know, it's like all those things where it's like I didn't really have, like, my parents were like, just be humble, just be grateful, like, you know, and it's like, okay, yes, I understand, but I also need to be smart. And it's like I couldn't really ask my parents to really help me with that, because it's kind of like, okay, I have to figure this on my own.
And you're the oldest of your siblings, right?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of yeah, there's me and three. I have three.
Wow.
Siblings. Yeah. So it was kind of like, all right, I'll figure it out.
First daughter woes.
Literally. Yes. And so how I ended up seeking like advice for that, I was like creating mentorships within my internship. So I got close to like a reporter, like another producer, another executive producer, like really, really built that mentor-mentee relationship, you know? So that's how I was able to like get advice of like how much to ask for and make sure you get relocation assistance and, you know, stuff like that, where it's like, at the end of the day, you're just a number in corporate America, but just make sure that you know what your number is worth, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I've been living in Miami for about a year now, which is pretty cool. I relocated to launch the show right before COVID hit. So it's like,
Wow.
It was January 2020, and I was like, woo, Miami, let's do this. And then a month and a half later, it was like, what?
Oh,
Damn.
that was definitely one of my big questions too. Like, how was it relocating during or before COVID?
It was right before. And when I tell you that my move couldn't have been like more like seamless, like my move is just, it was like the universe. I'm big on manifestation. I'm super spiritual. I have my crystals. I have my crystals and my sage behind me. Like,
yes.
I have my whiteboard right here where I always like, I wake up and
you on it.
Yeah, I wake up and I write little things that just come to my head, because it's like, and that's something that I tell people all the time. And when I talk to students too, I'm like, the law of attraction is real. Let me tell you guys. When I was a sophomore at Cal State Northridge, I knew I wanted to work in Spanish media, and the headquarters of Spanish media. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but like the headquarters for NBC News is 30 Rockefeller Center in New York. The headquarters for Telemundo or Univision is in Miami. So sophomore year, since sophomore year, and I told one of my mentors at CSUN, like, I don't know how I'm going to get to Miami, but I'm going to enter Miami. Like, I don't know how, I don't know anybody, I don't have family, but like, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And then when the offer for Miami came, I was like, damn, okay.
I was like, that into existence. That's amazing.
I was like, yo, this is crazy. And it's one of those moments where it's like, you're just like super, super proud of yourself. And it's like, nobody understands the feeling but you, because it's something that you've longed for and manifested, and you just knew, you know, it's like, you just knew. And so I tell people that all the time, because it's like, some people are sketchy when it comes to like manifesting and writing things down and like saying things out loud. But it's like, you have to envision yourself in that position already. You have to envision yourself living that lifestyle that you want. And I think that's where kind of people get it twisted a little bit, because everyone's like, what's your dream job? What is your dream job? And it's like, let's start telling people, what is your dream lifestyle? Because it's like your dream job, and you're telling people like, what is your dream job to work for X amount of years? But it's like, no, what is your dream lifestyle? That includes a dream job, but also happiness outside the workplace is very, very important. And that's something that I really, really didn't understand myself until 2020 happened, where I was like, all right, I'm excelling professionally. I'm helping launch a bilingual show, helping out my community. But okay, what am I outside of this, you know? So it's like, I'm still on the road to finding like that purpose outside of work, because I feel like a lot of people get super sucked into like their professional persona. And especially nowadays with like social media, where it's like, if you're all about your profession and your profession, you know, you have your social media page and where you show what you do. And it's like, you get so sucked into trying to be that persona 24/7 that when you're out with your friends at a bar having fun, it's like, I don't know if I should be posting this because, you know, it's like, that's another, like, so it's like a balance. Like, I have a life too. Like, I'm not just a reporter. Like, I have my ratchet days too that I want to like have fun, you know?
I actually was having a conversation like this with, I think it was my mom. So many people attach success, the word success, to your professional success or your success, but people don't realize that success is something that is subjective. It's your definition of success. There's no, like, if you're making this amount of money by the time you're 30, that could be someone else's definition of success. So you have to sit down and figure out what success means to you. Because I was thinking about it, because I'm always like, oh, I want to be successful and all these things. But I really sat and I was like, I am damn successful. Like, especially if I look back on the last few years, I've only moved forward. So to me, that's I'm not moving back, I'm moving forward. Like, that's what success means to me. And I love that you talk about manifestation. I'm such a sucker for manifesting, stories. But I also think what people fail to realize is you have to manifest, but you have to back it up with some action too. It's not like something that's just going to fall on your lap. So you were able to get those things that you spoke into existence because you did some groundwork and got those things done. It didn't come without you making moves. So that's another thing that I feel like sometimes.
Yeah, no, that is key. That is key. Because you're right. Like, I would manifest and say it out loud, but I was also hustling, applying to internships, and people, like making sure that I was building my network to get to where I want to be. And that's another thing that's super, super hard as a first generation, because it's like you're out on the little boat by yourself. You come from a very humble background, very hardworking people, but they don't really have the connection, like the Chads in the world do. It's like, oh, my dad or my uncle or my mom or whatever, it's like, no, I don't have any. And so I'll never forget one of my internship orientation for NBC Universal. I was with my co-interns for one of the networks, and she just asked, she said, so how did you get your internship? And I looked at her kind of like, I was like, on my application. And then I asked her, what topic did you choose for your essay? Because we had to write like something quick. And she's like, oh, my dad's a news director, so I didn't have to do that.
Wow.
Okay. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, you try to be like, instead of like, oh, you were kind of like, oh, that's great. Good for you. Like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, so it's like you also have to learn how to interact with those type of people in this world, because it's kind of like, that you've earned your seat at the table versus other people who just
privilege
had an option to get to be at the table.
What's crazy about that too is like when programs like affirmative action, which like kind of was to help people of color like get into positions of success and stuff, there was a whole issue with that. But mind you, there's families like that you're describing that like literally nepotism and like put people in these positions just because, oh, they're family. But people don't think about that and like think about how these programs exist to help even the playing field, not to, makes another group of people like get ahead or anything. It's just literally to even the playing field.
Yeah. And I think people think that these are such unique stories, but this happens to a lot of us. It's not just in the movies. If you're one friend, this is an incident that happened to them. It's pretty common, which is really sad.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you brought that to light, because it's real life.
Yeah, it is real life. It's 100% real. And I feel like hopefully when we are all executives at companies, that the environment and, just the cultural aspect behind that is a little bit more progressive. Just because I feel like it all starts with leadership at the very top. And if your executives and your senior producers and, the people at the top making the decisions are all Chads, then your environment is going to continue to be Chads.
I saw this thing too today that it was like when companies talk about, I think it was like a TikTok or something, when companies talk about diversity, it's usually like you say, the Chads at the top, Chads at the middle with one woman, and then the junior level is like, okay, one person of color, but the rest look like the other people at the top.
Right. To show that they're a diverse company. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And also, oh man, it's I'm like, I don't want to name drop, but I'm like, I'm not gonna name drop, but like, yeah, like,
so the tea.
I know, like 2020 happened, right? And then it's like George Floyd and the BLM protests and like all of that stuff, you know. Then all of a sudden, every company was like, you know, and it was like, it was just interesting to see an organization that I had worked for, that all of a sudden they were progressive and all of a sudden they were supporting, you know, the urban culture, because when I worked for them and I had, you know, Black co-producers that would pitch artists, they would be like, no. Now all of a sudden they care. And I'm sure it's been like that you know, everywhere, but it's irritating to see, but it's like, then you can't really be mad at it, because it's like, okay, they're finally giving their platform to the correct voices, so it's hard to like hold a grudge, but it's also like, you know,
it's also too like, what are you doing on the inside though versus pasting on your social media?
Because all of that is performative, like the stuff where it's like, we stand, we're like, we're about to do this and this. Okay, like that's great for you to broadcast it, but like it really comes down to like, are you like literally abolishing whatever, you know, internal things that you had in place and like really rebuilding it to start like including from the ground up people of color and like really committing to being diverse? Because all the other stuff is just performative, and it's like,
and that's why I love a beauty influencer. She actually made these beauty companies show the receipts. Like, how many people do you have in this position, in that position? And they felt pressed to show the receipts because everybody was watching. She had a really big platform. So,
but even with that, like even with hiring more people of color, like how you said, how it's just like, yeah, you can hire us and like we can get in there like maybe as entry level, but the likelihood of us like getting to the next level is a lot less likely than our counterpart or white counterparts.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, at the same time, like investing in like people of color who are leaders is, I feel like, should be a goal of all companies. Because even at the company that I work for now, like they have had all these initiatives like diverse, they even hired like a diversity and inclusion person to like try and like get people, you know, together and like unconscious bias training and all this stuff. But the company is still like led by predominantly white people. So it's like, okay, like I see what you're doing, but you're still not really changing the leadership. So really, how far can we get if you have the same people?
And I think that's also like coming back to like the first generation topic. It's like being a first generation in your family to work in corporate America, it's all about like taking risks and stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something that you have never seen done in your family before. And if sometimes it means like really, really sticking up for you, for yourself, for other coworkers that are people of color, first gems too, it's like you guys have to like stand together and really like click together. And I've been very, very blessed with having like that key group at work where it's like we just get it, like we just you know, like we just get it. It's like all right, you know, we just get it. And I think that's important to like have, making sure that you have like just like a community. It doesn't have to be people that you work at the same company, but just like people like how you guys created this this community here, like for Gems, that like it's like you just know, it's like we've all been there. Like I am the you at the company that you're at, and you are me at the company I'm at. Like we just understand what we go through.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on too that you mentioned, Grecia, is like the idea of being a trailblazer, right? Because that experience can be very isolating and almost lonely because you are treading new water. and you can't really explain like, yeah, this is what I see within like my peers as successful because our parents, you know, came into the country with their own idea of the American dream. And in this 2020, 2021, things have changed so rapidly that it is going into more digital space, and you have to have more technical skills, and you really do have to be creative. And so when you want to bring that back home, and you know, like you said, some of the advice that they're saying is like, oh, just be humble. And it's like, that is like a secret power when used appropriately. But at the same time, there's moments where you're like, I don't need to be humble. We got in, and she didn't have to do jack squat. I'm gonna boast and brag and make myself the top contender when it comes to applications, when it comes to resumes, when it comes to the interviews. Like, I need to give my best because guess what? I have that second level of competence. And cultural competence is the word that people use a lot. It's a phrase that people use a lot when it comes to like importing diversity and inclusion. So now that that's a hot topic with these corporations, us as first gens, we are the cultural competency. So we also can think about using our humility as our power to be like, you know what? I see your company is lacking a couple of colors, some diversity. Let me come in and do that for you. You know, like that's our asset. And I really do like when you saying that, that was something for me as well in any industry and other first gens who are listening to be like, yeah, I am. Like, I'm what you're looking for at the end of the day. And so when it comes to these corporations or organizations being performative, that's for us to really step in and be like, look, y'all doing this wrong. Let me drop the vote.
Right. They're the people to tell them that some of these brands that are putting out things and it's like, what? Where's your people? They don't have those people. They really don't have those people. But also too, it shouldn't be a thing of, oh, your idea of empowering or bringing up one of your employees, especially your employee of color, is just suggesting them to be the diversity and inclusion coordinator. Yeah. No, I'm more than that. I don't even like talking to people. I have these set skills, not me, but I'm saying like it's you're just kind of like doing it performatively. Like, oh, let me bring her up and let me see if she wants to do this diversity and inclusion thing. Like, no, there are people of color who have those expertise that you can bring in, but that doesn't mean that your token person of color has to fill that role either.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. Like I remember, again, another example where it's like we need more diversity in the newsroom. It's like they ended up doing like an interview for some project, and the person that did the interview only spoke Spanish. So they're like, Grecia, you speak Spanish. Do you mind translating? And it's like, on top of the project that I'm working on, you want me to help on this project?
Right.
No, but it's like you can't say no, because if you say no, then they're like, oh, you know. So it's like you have to be like, choose your battles.
Yeah, there are those moments, but it's like, you know, when you do your, what's it called? Like your quarterly review or whatever, you mention that, like advertise those things and be like, you know what, I did help y'all reach XX level. Like we did, you know, the figures, and people say that, oh, add that to your resume, show us what you were able to contribute. Like, I'm doing more than what my job description asked for. So I'm gonna need that to reflect on my people.
And
right.
You literally hit it on the nail. You hit it on the nail when it's like, you have to, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm going to say this. Maybe there's other people like me. But when incidents like that happen, I have a list. I have a Google document where I list exactly what happened, what I did, the date, and if there's a link to something, screenshot an email or a Slack message. Because it's like, you know, you have to make sure that it's like, okay, you're helping each other out. You're helping someone else with the project. But if something goes to HR and then there's an altercation, you need receipts. Like, you need receipts. And if there is something that is in, because you can say, like, it can be, she said, he said, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Like, if there's receipts, if there's email, there's a Slack notification, something, whatever you guys use, like, make sure that you save that, because it can help you if there's a case, God forbid it gets to that level, but you never know, you know, especially being a person of color in corporate America, where it's like they will label you whatever they want to label you right away. Oh no, she troublemaker, toxic, whatever, however else they label us. It's kind of like, no, you guys kicked me off for a reason, and here are the receipts.
That right there is him, because
I was going to say that.
Yeah, a former coworker, she was like, document everything. I don't care what it is, document everything. Wherever you go, document it. Even if it's like not a little, it's not, it's just like a little microaggression or something that you feel like it's just small and, okay, it bothered me for this, write it down. And that actually happened to me at a previous role as well, where someone said something, I think it was racist to me. And I documented it. I brought it up and it wasn't handled. It was basically like, oh, she didn't mean it like that. But it was something that I found very, very offensive. And she had said other things that were extremely offensive to other people's cultures. So I was like, let me just write this down. I'm going to email it to you, even if you act like this is not a big deal, but at least I have my documentation. So that instance is an instance of someone like verbally saying something. So if you ever come into that type of situation, try to remember what they said verbatim, document it down in that moment, because you never know when it's going to come in handy. And yeah,
definitely. I'll never forget one of my coworkers who is Black, not where I'm working right now, but she told me that the other producer that sat at the table in her cubicle straight up told her, like, you know, they only hired you because you're Black and we need diversity, like straight up. And she told me, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, did you report it? Did you? And she was like, no, because I don't want to make a big deal out of it because I'm Black. And I was just like, you know, and like there are people like that, and then they get away with it and they continue to show the same behavior because nobody tells them anything.
That's so sad.
Especially when I'm sure there's a fear of being like blackballed at other, like if you brought it to light and made it public, I'm sure there's that fear too that hold people back from speaking up. And
and that's what I mean. I'm like, I can't wait till like we are executives, so we are the change, and we will help, you know, change the culture and change, you know, how we handle these instances, because it's like it's not okay. Yeah, sure, there's, you know, now all of a sudden because of 2020 and, you know, George Floyd, now there's like, now all of a sudden they want to make diversity panels and diversity inclusion and training. It's like, okay, where was this before 2020? Where was this before another George Floyd incident? You know, it's like this was not the type of energy that any company was giving prior to 2020. And this is what I say again, it's hard to hold a grudge, because it's like, okay, we're finally getting through, but it's like, okay, how long are they going to keep this up, you know?
Right. Yeah, because it's profitable now. You know, it's what's trending, and that's what people are tuning in, like, oh, I see a person of color, like I see somebody that looks like me, let me tune in. Like if you notice, a lot of like the shows like The Talk or like those it's like different people that sit on a panel. It's like, okay, they have one of each person. And like, I think there's like a big thing going on now where it's like, they're just trying to like create these shows where it's like representation from each like demographic. And so, but like you said, how long is it gonna go? Like, it's gonna be like a year and then we're gonna revert back to normal. Well, not normal. I don't want to say normal because that's really not what the world looks like. But like, how long are they gonna keep it up? Because you see it kind of died down. Like, you know, I wonder if it's gonna pop back up towards this summer. Like, I was just thinking the other day, like, are we gonna march this summer? Like, I'm just thinking, like, was it a trend? Yeah. Like, cause, you know, it was really big on social media at one point, and then Christmas came around, everybody was like, what? And then stimulus checks took over, and it was just like, what happened to us? Like, you know?
I was like, okay, great, keep doing it, you know, and and like when the whole BLM was happening, everybody put their black squares on Instagram, and I also uploaded black square, but then I deleted it like weeks later. I was like, I get it, you know, we're all posting this black square, so like in solidarity and like showing, but it's like a black square on my Instagram page isn't going to really reflect what I do on
yeah.
So I ended up deleting it because I was just like, not that I felt guilty, but it was also just kind of like, never mind, you know, it was like, okay, let me do this change in person, even though, you know, I'm not this, I mean, I have what friends, you know, I always tend to like help. And that's one thing that I wanted to say too, like being first generation also means that like you have each other's back at work, you know, it's like, especially when you're like, there's other people of color in your team. And when you guys have like, you know, like those creative sessions and like meetings and you guys want to pitch, it's like, you always want to have someone that like can, you know, be your second voice or something, because it's like if you pitch something and the chat hates it, but then the 3 people of color on their team like really go to bat for it, then they're more likely to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah. With that black square thing, it kind of was counterproductive because at one point, like the hashtag was shadow banned or something, and then if you go to that hashtag, everything was just kind of blacked out. So it's kind of like, what are we doing? Like, you know, that was kind of confusing, but. Yeah. Hopefully, like you said, people have to take the steps to acknowledge people of color and just be kind. Like, it's not that hard to just be kind to the next person, you know? Like, just show humility. Like, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, man. Again, hopefully when we are executives, we will be the change, and we will make those changes in corporate. Little by little, baby steps.
Baby steps. Yeah.
Is your goal to like take over like a huge media company and be a CEO, or do you want to have your own, like start your own media company and like, you know, do it that way?
My goal, like my long-term goal is I want to be a journalism professor. I want to be like an entry-level journalism professor. I want to do that as like a side thing once I'm like older and settled. But for now, I mean, I don't know. I feel like 2020 really challenged me personally, where it's like, so when you work in news, you start off in local news. Local news mean like, you know, Channel 7, Channel 52, where your community is, where it's not national. So when you start off in news, you start in local news and you make your way up to network level, where you work at a national show. So again, like the Today Show or Good Morning America, where you work on a show that broadcasts nationally. So I was very blessed and worked my way up, and I've been at network level since the start of my career. So I'm kind of like, I'm at network level. However, I've noticed that network level people eat, breathe, die, live news, which is great. When you're a journalist, you have to be passionate about it, but they are very lonely when it comes to like being like, you know, because it's like when you're an executive or executive producer for a big national broadcasting show, it's like, that is your life, you know, breaking news, that is your life. There's a shooting, my show's live, I gotta go. There's marches, it's like, that is your life, which is great. I love the adrenaline rush feel. I love the news. I love that people come to me and they're like, what do you know, XYZ? And it's like, yeah, this is what I know. Here you go. But then when I come home, I'm like, am I really truly happy? So I feel like my goal now, if you would have asked me this question a year ago, I'd be like, I want my own show. I want to be a host. I want, you know, like, and now a year later after 2020, I'm like, I want to be happy at home versus thriving professionally, you know? So I'm kind of like fighting within staying in network level and being work. I'm only 26. And then I'm also kind of like, okay, let me retract from network, go to a local station and be at calm, be at peace, meet someone, fall in love, settle down, versus like be an executive and be, you know, it's tricky. I'm still like fighting that within myself, because I feel like for the longest time ever since college, I've been nothing but like work, internships, professionalism. Now working professionally after 5 years, I'm kind of like, this is cool, but like, I do kind of want a husband, you know, and who's to say that won't happen if I continue on network level. But I think my ultimate goal is to be happy, have my dream lifestyle versus a dream job, and just to continue to elevate the Latino voice, which is what has been my go-to since the beginning. I'm a bilingual journalist. I speak Spanish. I do want to stay within Latino news to kind of, you know, still be that voice for my Hispanic community. And yeah, pretty much that's it. That's who I am right now.
I think you are doing that. So shout out to you. And I know that you're working on like your segment for the cultura. So like thinking about personal projects and how you can mend like your professional expertise with your personal passion. So could you talk more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So so for the cultura was basically we made history kind of because it's a show that's produced by Telemundo, but in English. And when you think of Telemundo, you think of Spanish media, right? But it's kind of like what I love about NBC Universal and Telemundo, it's like they know that there is a big growing number of Hispanic first generation, Hispanic millennials where, yes, we speak English and Spanish, but we consume our news in English. It's like, yeah, we understand it, but we prefer to consume it in English. So, and it's like now, sad to say that our abuelas and our tias are getting older, then it's like Telemundo or, networks will die with them because it's like, well, who's tuning in? If, we're kind of losing our target audience. So they're kind of like, okay, very innovative. Let's create an entertainment show, bilingual Spanglish, where we target the millennial Latino audience to still tune into Telemundo and be like, yeah, I feel seen, I feel represented, and so we were able to create For the Cultura, which our executive producer is a African-American guy from New Orleans, Louisiana, which is crazy because like when I met him, I was like, yo, you speak Spanish? Like, that's dope. Like, it's one thing that it's like, it was just really, I was really, really, really proud to be like, yo, my executive producer for Telemundo is Black. Like I can say that wholeheartedly. And we really, really vibed. And our senior producer was Cuban. Then I was the lead content producer. And I'm saying was because COVID and budget, our show just got canceled recently. So I'm like, but it's okay. Our senior producer was Cuban. I'm Mexican-American. My co-producers were Colombian-American, another Mexican-American, and another Cuban-American. So it was just crazy to like have all these cultures, and we just got it. It was our saying was like, for the cultura. It's a show created by the cultura for the cultura. So it's like, we get it. And so it was like you just said it. It was like bringing your passion and your personal life together to create this like product that was it was a fun show. And it was super like, it represented all sorts of people from everywhere in the world. And we really, really strive to be that voice. It was like, instead of giving you like, oh, your 5 top beauty brands from like Sephora, right. Okay, here are like your 5 Latino beauty brands, or like, brands of color that you should support. So it was like stuff like that we were just more like, okay, let's see how we can elevate small businesses and, businesses of color, instead of like NARS and like Living Proof or, Garnier, where it's like they already have their people.
Right. That's really dope.
That is. I love that. I'd like to ask you before we get into our gems. So at the end of every show, each of us drops a gem based on what we talked about in the episode, in the discussion, in the talk, in the conversation. But before we get into that, I want to know, who was your favorite person to interview and who do you interview next?
I think my all-time favorite person to interview was J Balvin. Why? Because I was a J Balvin fan before he became J Balvin. It was like a full circle moment where it's like, I was just a college student watching you, and now I got to see your growth. And it was really dope that I got to interview him for like 2 minutes. It was a super quick interview, but it was a good one. And who I hope to interview next is Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny.
That's good. Oh my gosh. And I love Bad Bunny's personality too. It just seems like good energy, good vibes. Yes. So what gem would you drop for a first gen millennial trying to move up in their professional career?
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, being a first generation in corporate America, don't let anybody dim your light. You have a bright light and you're there for a reason. Something else I would say is, don't feel like you ever need permission from someone to be yourself, because like You just need to be yourself. You're there for a reason. And also being first gen, it's like you often look at your past and how you got there. So, and it isn't, you hit it in the very beginning where it's like the healing process of being a first gen, right? It's kind of like you're finally at where you want to be, and you kind of have to like look at your past as a place to like hold self-compassion and reflection to where you've come so far as a first generation. And also something that we actually didn't touch up on, but I think is very important, is like fighting the imposter syndrome in the workplace, because it's something that I deal with on a daily basis, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people deal with on a daily basis. It's like the imposter syndrome is so real, and it's something that I don't think the Chads of the world will ever understand. It's like, do I belong? Are you sure I should be CC'd on this email? Like, are you sure you want me to go to that meeting? Like, this project, you don't need to put my name on it. Like, it's okay, I did one thing, but it's like, no, you deserve the credit. You're definitely should be in your bio, stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, for first generations, just know that you are not alone. And there is a community like this First Gems organization and community where it's like, you need advice on something, reach out, because you are not alone.
I love that. Yes. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Okay, I'll drop a gem. So I would say you are where you are supposed to be. Be confident in your skills and your abilities. You're going to get to your destination. Just be patient, grind hard, and look out for your people the same way you would want them to look out for you.
I would say know your worth and add tax, because ain't nobody going to fight harder for you than you. So let that be known.
Yeah.
And the price is going up.
It is.
The price is going up day by day.
I'm gonna drop mine. So mine is lead by example. You can talk the talk, but you definitely gotta walk the walk. Like, put some action behind your dreams, manifest your future, because you can do it. Just lead by example. Like, even if you don't have someone to look up to, be that person that you look up to and that others look up to as well. Just go for it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So to wrap it up, I guess, in talking about being in this digital space and where we are in the world currently, with TikTok, with Instagram, with just social media in general, I think that for first gens listening in is to practice telling your story, because that's the space that we're moving into. You know, people value and respect authenticity, and that's us. We literally are that pool. We're the source of information. We're the source of trajectory on what's trending and what's not, but it's our story. So just practice telling it and be free. Feel free to share it, but at the end of the day, add text.
Love that. Practice telling your story. That is key. I love that.
Yes. Way to kill it. So, Grecia, where can our gem community of gems find you? Is there anything that you want to promote? Any projects you're working on? Let us know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're definitely more interested in learning about, what else I do, I have my website, grecialopez.com. You can see all the video projects I've done, my video reel, my resume, if you want to see what I'm doing, go right ahead. And then my Instagram is just Grecia S. Lopez. Same for my Twitter, at Grecia S. Lopez. My Twitter, my Instagram, we're two completely different people, but
they need to see, they need to see both sides. Yes, so thank you again, Grecia, for joining us. This was absolutely lovely. You've taught us so many things. I've learned so many things, and I hope the people have learned so many things as well. So I just want to give a big thank you from all of us.
Yes, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much.
Looking forward, and I really, really hope that this episode helps someone that has, that just, needs some motivation.
I'm about to go work on my resume. Right?
I know. I'm about to start manifesting my life. Get what I need.
Look, I got my whiteboard right here.
Start writing stuff down.
I love it.